It all began with a knock. Not the casual, friendly kind, but a sharp, frantic pounding that rattled through the quiet Saturday morning like an alarm. I was midway through my coffee, sitting on the porch of my cabin when the screen door jolted, under the force of it. When I opened the door, there she was. Karen. Yes, that Karen. Clipboard in hand, standing like she was about to brief the press. "We need full access to the cabin today," she declared, her voice flat, rehearsed, and entirely too confident. "The HOA has scheduled a community retreat. About 100 people are expected by noon." I blinked at her, coffee mug frozen halfway to my lips. "Karen, this is my private cabin. Nobody told me anything about a retreat." Unbothered, she flipped through her clipboard like it was scripture. "According to HOA Rule 13, subsection 4, any shared amenities—" "This isn't a shared amenity," I cut in, jabbing a finger toward the iron gate I had personally built 2 years back. "I paid for this land. I maintain it myself. You don't get to host parties here." A flush crept up her cheeks. Her eyes darted to the road, where vans and SUVs were already lining up behind her, honking as though they were arriving for a sold-out concert. I spotted foldable tables stacked high in the back of a pickup. "You're making a scene," she hissed. "You're going to embarrass yourself in front of the whole community." "Oh, you want a scene?" I replied calmly, stepping back inside. I grabbed my keys, walked straight past her stunned little entourage, and headed for the gate. Normally I kept it open. Not today. The heavy iron bars clanged shut, and I locked it. Once. Twice. Karen's composure snapped. "You can't just lock out the neighborhood." "I just did," I said evenly, turning back toward the porch. "Let's see how far your clipboard gets you now." Phones were already out. People recorded. Someone shouted about calling the sheriff. Karen looked like she might collapse, but I wasn't close to finished. See, my property wasn't just fenced. It was covered by a full camera system. Every angle accounted for. As I sipped the last of my now cold coffee, I started downloading footage. If anyone dared to force entry, it would be caught on record. Karen, whether she realized it or not, had just declared war, and she had picked the wrong man. 10 minutes later, Karen was pacing like a commander with no army. Her so-called guests kept arriving, piling up behind the locked gate, irritated and confused. I could hear her desperate phone calls even from my porch. "Yes, officer, he's obstructing an HOA-approved gathering." "No, I don't have a signed permission slip, but this is a community matter." I chuckled to myself. Classic Karen. For years, she'd bent HOA rules to her will. She'd shut down yard sales for being unsightly, harassed teenagers for riding bikes too quickly, and fined people for paint colors that weren't on her sacred approved list. But this, trying to seize my private property for her event? That was a move the law wasn't going to back up. Sure enough, 20 minutes later, a sheriff's cruiser pulled up at the end of the road. The deputy stepped out, one hand resting casually on his belt, eyes scanning the circus that had formed. Karen rushed over like he was her knight in shining armor. "There!" she barked, pointing at me as if I were a fugitive. "He's locking us out of the retreat space. We reserved it." The deputy approached the gate, calm as could be. "Sir, would you mind coming down here a moment?" I strolled down, phone in hand, documents ready. "Afternoon, officer. Just so we're clear, this is my property." "I've got the paperwork to prove it," Karen's shrill voice cut in. "He's exploiting it for personal gain. It's listed in the community documents as part of the common area." I handed the deputy my deed. "Not anymore. It used to be. Within the HOA zone 5 years ago. When I bought this cabin, I negotiated it out. It's completely independent now." The deputy scanned the paperwork. Even before he spoke, I saw the truth hit Karen's face like a brick. "Ma'am," he said with a shrug, "unless you've got a court order or some kind of legal claim, he's within his rights. You can't use this property without his permission." "Karen, opened her mouth, but only a strangled sound came out. Behind her, her guests started murmuring, their once festive mood curdling into awkward disbelief. The deputy turned back to me. "If anyone tries to breach that gate, give us a call." "Will do," I nodded. Karen's grand plan had collapsed spectacularly, but I knew her too well to think it was over. Karen didn't quit. She regrouped, and sure enough, come Monday morning, I found 3 fresh letters taped to my gate. All of them courtesy of Karen, all of them dripping with HOA jargon, empty threats, and pseudo-legal nonsense. The first, notice of violation, unauthorized use of former HOA grounds. The second, intent to fine $500 per day until compliance is met. The third, printed in bold type like some grand ultimatum, demand to host a makeup community retreat within 7 days or face consequences. I carried them straight to my wood stove, lit a match, and fed the flames. But don't mistake me, I wasn't careless. I knew exactly what she was doing. Karen didn't want to fine me. She wanted to intimidate me, to bury me under paperwork until I surrendered. But if she thought I'd roll over and hand her my land for a weekend party, not a chance. The very next morning, I decided it was time to put everything in writing. I emailed the HOA board, attaching my purchase contract, the boundary survey, and a clean excerpt from the 2020 amendment. The very document that proved, beyond all doubt, my cabin and land had been excluded from HOA jurisdiction. My message was short and sharp. Any attempt to trespass on or assert authority over this property will be considered harassment and pursued accordingly. A few hours later, a reply popped into my inbox. It was from the HOA secretary. "We acknowledge your exemption," she wrote, "and have advised Karen to cease any further action. We apologize for the confusion." I almost laughed out loud. Confusion? Karen wasn't confused. She was seething. That apology was nothing more than the board trying to distance themselves from the chaos she'd stirred up. I didn't even blame them. Karen had dragged them into a battle she had started all on her own. But just when I thought things might calm down, I saw something that made my blood boil. On the HOA's community Facebook page, a new post appeared. Community picnic rescheduled. Now at Daniel's retreat cabin. There it was. My name, my property, plastered across social media like an open invitation. I took a screenshot immediately. She was at it again, sneaking her agenda through lies and manipulation. I commented right. Under the post, false information. This is private property and not open for any HOA event. Anyone who shows up will be trespassing. 10 minutes later, the post vanished. But the damage was already done. People had seen it, and Karen had once again rallied her followers. I could feel it. She wasn't done with me yet. And I was right. 3 nights later, at 12:42 a.m., I was jolted awake by the crunch of tires on gravel. My motion sensors lit up red. I pulled on my boots, grabbed my flashlight, and checked my cameras from my phone. A black SUV sat parked just outside my gate. 4 people were unloading folding chairs and a massive canopy, working in the dead of night. I stormed down the gravel path, beam of the flashlight cutting through the dark. "Hey!" I shouted. "This is private land. What do you think you're doing?" They froze mid-step. One clutched a clipboard. The others shifted nervously, caught between running and arguing. "Karen told us this was approved," one finally stammered. "Well," Karen lied. I shot back, stepping closer. "You've got 30 seconds to pack it up and leave before I call the sheriff, and this time I will press charges." No one argued. They scrambled, tossing chairs back into the SUV, muttering under their breath the whole time. I filmed everything, just in case. As their taillights disappeared, my phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number. "You're making this a bigger deal than it has to be. Don't forget, you still live in this community." Karen, that was it. No more games. I went to the county records website and pulled every scrap of documentation I could find. The HOA bylaws, the land division maps, the official minutes from the 2020 board meeting that excluded my land. I bundled it all into a Neat digital folder, added the new video evidence, and sent it straight to the HOA's legal team along with Karen's threatening message. The next day I got a call. Mark, the HOA president. He sounded worn down, tired of it all. Daniel, listen, he sighed. Karen acted completely on her own. The board never approved any of this. We're holding an emergency meeting tonight to vote on removing her as event coordinator. This has gone way too far. Good, I said flatly. Just make sure she knows. One more stunt like this, and she's dealing with the sheriff, not me. That evening, I sat on my porch, watching as cars gathered at the community center down the road. Karen arrived last. Her arms were folded, her face pale and tense. By the time the meeting ended, Karen was officially stripped of her title. For about a week, things quieted down, but not completely. Some neighbors whispered. A few still supported Karen quietly, convinced I had overreacted. Others stopped by to apologize, admitting they'd been misled by her lies. I didn't hold grudges. I didn't want enemies. I just wanted peace at my cabin. But Karen? She wasn't done. Sunday morning came bright and warm. I was stacking firewood. Into the shed when I heard it again, the crunch of tires. I rounded the corner and saw Karen herself standing at the gate, flanked by two men I didn't recognize. One held a folded banner. The other carried a camera. I walked down the path, keeping my cool. Need something? Karen smiled, not a warm smile, a smug, calculating one. I'm filming a documentary, she announced, about how community spaces are being stolen by selfish individuals, and we're doing a segment right here in front of your gate. I blinked. You're filming on my property? She shot a glance at her cameraman. Outside your property, public roadside, perfectly legal. Technically, she wasn't wrong. But I knew her game. This wasn't about a documentary. It was about spinning her humiliation into some kind of righteous crusade. They started rolling. Karen unfurled the banner. Bring back our space. I gave them 10 seconds. Then I turned, went inside, and flipped the breaker that powered the gate's security horn. A sharp, blaring alarm split the air, echoing down the road. Birds scattered from the trees. Karen flinched hard. The cameraman nearly dropped his equipment. This is harassment, she screamed. I yelled back from the porch. So is trespassing. And just so you know, I've already called the sheriff. You've got 2 minutes to clear out before you're cited for illegal protest in a residential zone. That last part was a bluff. But Karen didn't know it. Without another word, they packed up. No speech, no dramatic closing line. Just 3 furious people trudging back to a car that stalled before sputtering away. 2 hours later, there was another knock on my door. This time, it wasn't Karen. It was Mark, the HOA president. He handed me an official letter. The board has voted unanimously to ban any further community events or claims involving your property. Karen has also been suspended from all HOA activity for 6 months. I closed the door, a smile spreading across my face. The gate stayed locked. The cabin stayed mine, and Karen, she finally stayed quiet. Karen thought she could hijack my cabin for 100 people, but she never saw the gate slam coming. If you enjoyed watching her plans crash and burn, don't forget to hit that like button. Leave a comment about how you would have handled her and subscribe for more wild HOA drama, one locked gate at a time.